and welcome to South Asia Today, a show that provides you glimpses of South Asia. I'm your host, Shivangi Mishra. Let's begin with the headlines first. India's PM Narendra Modi leads consecration of Grand Ram Temple in Ayodhya. Uyghurs, Tibetans hold anti-China protest outside UNHRC during Universal Periodic Review. And Traders Association and locals boycott Kashmir Solidarity Day in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Let's begin the show. As the Grand Ram Mandir consecration ceremony concluded on January 22nd in Indian temple town of Ayodhya, the entire nation soaked into the ocean of devotion, including neighboring Nepal. All kinds of people, from prominent Indian politicians to entertainers and athletes, flocked to see this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The event offered a way forward for India and the neighboring countries like Nepal, as the epic Ramayana is highly regarded in the South Asian nation and their cultures.
सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय.
The entire India celebrates their common faith as the Indian holy town of Ayodhya plunges deeply into the ocean of devotion filled with Lord Ram's presence on January 22 during his consecration ceremony. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi led the consecration of a grand temple to the Hindu god Lord Ram on a site believed to be his birthplace.
हमारे रामलला अब टेंट में नहीं रहेंगे. हमारे रामलला अब इस दिव्य मंदिर में रहेंगे. मेरा पक्का विश्वास है, अपार श्रद्धा है कि जो घटित हुआ है इसकी अनुभूति देश के, विश्व के कोने कोने में राम भक्तों को हो रही होगी. ये क्षण अलौकिक है. 22 जनवरी 2024 ये कैलेंडर पर लिखी एक तारीख नहीं, ये एक नए काल चक्र का उद्गम है. आज गांव-गांव में एक साथ कीर्तन संकीर्तन हो रहे हैं. आज मंदिरों में उत्सव हो रहे हैं. स्वच्छता अभियान चलाए जा रहे हैं. पूरा देश आज दीपावली मना रहा है.
For the Ram Mandir consecration ceremony, invitations were sent to over 4,000 saints and dignitaries from India and around the globe, uniting India with countries that share a common faith. As the nation witnessed the Pran Pratishtha ceremony, Indians rejoiced in the homecoming of Lord Ram by lighting diyas and bursting firecrackers irrespective of their faiths.
मेरी जीत थी. हम 4 बजे सुबह उठ के लाइन में लगे हैं. हनुमानगढ़ी दर्शन किए, कनक भवन गए, बंदी है, लेकिन अब यहाँ लाइन लगाए हैं और दर्शन करके ही जाएंगे, चाहे जितना समय लग जाए, इसकी कोई दिक्कत नहीं. जय श्री राम, जय श्री राम, जय श्री राम.
The grand event offered a way forward for India and the neighboring countries as the epic Ramayana is highly regarded in the Southeast and South Asian cultures. In neighboring Nepal, people lit 2.5 lakh earthen lamps in Janakpur to celebrate Ayodhya's Ram Mandir Pran Pratishtha. Remarkably, Nepal's Janakpur is considered to be the hometown of Ma Sita. The city was lit with lamps and colorful decorations to celebrate Pran Pratishtha ceremony. In Nepal's Mahotari, some of them were dressed as Hanuman, while others as Ram and Sita, while taking part in the Sobha Yatra. Nepal's Union Minister for Labour, Employment and Social Security, Sarat Singh Bhandari, unveiled a 25 feet tall mural of Lord Ram and Goddess Sita in Mahotari, said that the world had entered the Ram era. The minister also expressed gratitude to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for uniting Sanatan Hindus in one location and giving a reason to rejuvenate.
हम धन्यवाद देना चाहते हैं विशेष करके भारतीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी को, जिनकी पहल में, जिनकी इनिशिएटिव में इतनी बड़ी संसार भर के लोगों को एक जगह खड़ा करके, एकजुट में खड़ा करके और एक श्री राम के नाम में सबको एक जगह करके एक शक्ति के रूप में जो उन्होंने आगे बढ़ाया है, ये हम लोग के लिए बहुत बड़ी बात है। हमारी सनातनी को, हमारी संस्कार को, हमारी संस्कृति को रक्षा करने का जो दायित्व हमारे कंधे में आया है, हमको लगता है आज का दिन एक नई युग का शुरुआत हो रहा है। एक नया युग में हम लोग प्रवेश कर रहे हैं और श्री राम का युग में हम लोग प्रवेश कर रहे हैं, पुनः उसको स्थापित कर रहे हैं। और उनकी जो जितनी भी उनकी चरित्र है, उनका जो उनका देन है, वो सारी बातों को हम लोग आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं। इसलिए हम पुनः सारे नेपालियों की तरफ से हम इस हर्षोल्लास में जो हम लोग आज मौका मिला है, उसके लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देना चाहते हैं।
The magnificent Sri Ram Janmabhoomi Mandir is being constructed in traditional Nagara style. Its length is 380 feet, width is 250 feet and height is 161 feet, and is supported by a total of 392 pillars and 44 doors. In the main Sanctum Sanctorum on the ground floor, the childhood form of Lord Sri Ram, the idol of Sri Ram Lala, has been placed.
Moving on, a large number of Tibetan Uyghur activists on January 23rd organized a protest against the human rights violations being committed by China. The protest was held at Broken Chair in front of United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva. In the name of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, security establishment in China has increased interference in the Xinjiang province. On the other hand, Islamabad-Beijing friendship is exploiting the natural resources in Pakistan's Balochistan province. Pakistan is turning Gwadar and other coastal areas of Balochistan into a Chinese stronghold. A report.
A large number of Tibetan and Uyghur activists organized a protest against China outside the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva on January 23rd. The protest occurred during the 45th session of the Universal Periodic Review at the United Nations. The protesters were carrying banners reading "Decolonize Tibet, China out of Tibet" and "Shame on China." A poster exhibition was also held to highlight human rights violations in Tibet and Xinjiang.
It is a good step, I believe, because 2018 Third Circle only 14 countries raised the Uyghur issue, but this time more than 31 countries. But 2018 there is no big evidence, nobody know, because China had successfully hiding this reality. But after that, last 5-6 years, so many leaked document was published, a lot of media document was published, come survivor made testimony, a lot of international scholar, independent scholar made statement, and also UN High Commissioner report were released. In this situation, only 30 countries speaking out, another 130, more than 130 countries, and they close the eyes, blind eyes, and don't speaking out. Even some of them is to give high price to the Chinese government on the name developed. So it is mean China very successfully doing it is disinformation campaign around the world and use its economic power, and the economic power and diplomatic power, trying to hide its crime.
During China's third Universal Periodic Review in November 2018, China received 346 recommendations from 150 countries and accepted 284 of them, with many questionably noted as accepted and already implemented. Despite a seemingly high acceptance rate, China broadly rejected recommendations on the rights of Uyghurs and Tibetans. Beijing rejected cooperation with the UN and restricted UN access to all regions of the country. Since 2018, mounting human rights abuses have been largely documented by a range of UN human rights bodies.
Uyghurs and Tibetans is not just a regional concern, but a global echo calling for justice, dignity, respect, and for human rights. In conclusion, as we stand together here today, at this critical juncture, let us remember that the Universal Periodic Review is more than a diplomatic engagement. It is a moral obligation. We are entrusted with the responsibility to uphold the principles of human rights, to advocate for the silence, and to ensure that no individual or community is left behind. Let this UPR be a testament to our unwavering commitment to these ideals.
Human rights groups believe China has detained more than 1 million Uyghurs against their will over the past few years in a large network of what the state calls re-education camps, and sentenced hundreds of thousands to prison terms. Moreover, on the name of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, security agencies and the army establishment have increased interference in the matters of civilian administration in Xinjiang. Pak-China coalition is exploiting people living on the both sides of the border. Pakistan is turning Gwadar and other coastal areas of Balochistan into a Chinese stronghold that has the largest concentration of military cantonments and bases in the region. International observers say China is influencing the security policies of Pakistan in the region. They have been instructing Islamabad to get rid of the local people in the Gwadar region, where the multi-billion flagship project CPEC culminates. Pakistan, which is already under massive Chinese debts, has no option but to follow commands.
Now we take a look at some happenings in Asia in a segment called Asia Watch.
French President Emmanuel Macron was recently on his two-day visit to India. Upon his arrival at the Jaipur International Airport, he was welcomed by External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, Rajasthan Governor Kalraj Mishra and Chief Minister Bhajan Lal Sharma. Macron visited various places in Jaipur like Hawa Mahal, Amber Palace and Jantar Mantar. His visit caps the 25th anniversary celebrations of the India-France strategic partnership. During the visit, French President Emmanuel Macron and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi held bilateral meeting at Taj Rambagh Palace in Jaipur. The French leader attended the Republic Day Parade 2024 as the chief guest. A French armed forces contingent participated in the Republic Day Parade and fly past alongside Indian troops and aviators. Thousands of Israelis gathered in Tel Aviv to protest against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government, accusing the veteran leader of mishandling the nation's security and calling for a new election. The massive anti-government protests that shook the nation for much of 2023 ceased after Hamas' October 7 attack on Israel as political rifts were set aside. With the war in Gaza in its fourth month, however, and opinion polls showcasing lagging support for Netanyahu, calls for leadership changes are growing stronger. This was reflected in a turnout at central Tel Aviv Square where many of last year's protests took place. The crowd was much smaller than those seen throughout 2023, but still several thousand people gathered, banging on drums, yelling their dismay and waving Israeli flags. Video released by Taliban spokesman office last week showed survivors of a charter plane which crashed in northern Afghanistan while on its way to Moscow being treated and recovering at Sardar Mohammad Daud Khan Hospital in Kabul. Russian aviation authorities said the plane with 6 people thought to be on board disappeared from radar screens over Afghanistan on January 20th night. The Taliban administration said 2 passengers were killed in the accident and 4 survived. The published video shows one of the survivors of the crashed jet in hospital expressing his gratitude and appreciation for the help and medical care from the teams of the Ministry of National Defense of Afghanistan. Japanese nuclear power plant operator Tokyo Electric Power Company TEPCO wrapped up testing of the first drones to be deployed to the wrecked Fukushima Daiichi plant in its decades-long decommissioning process. A snake-shaped robot and 4 drones are set to be dispatched in February to survey the damage at Fukushima Daiichi's Unit 1 reactor almost 13 years after its core melted down and triggered a hydrogen blast in one of the worst nuclear disasters in history. Although robots have surveyed the submerged interior of Unit 1 reactor's containment vessel, this would be the first time a drone would enter the vessel to provide a fuller picture of the damage above water, according to TEPCO. TEPCO hopes the images from the drone will help assess how the melted fuel debris could be removed. The nuclear reactor in Unit 1 was the first to start melting down after a massive tsunami struck the east coast of Japan in March 2011. It is believed to be the most severely damaged out of the 4 reactors that were operating that day, and TEPCO is still in process of trying to understand the extent of the damage and how to remove the molten fuel, a process that experts say will take decades.
The Locals and Traders Association in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir have called for a total boycott of Kashmir Solidarity Day after Pakistan and its puppet administration sidelined their constant demands. The Traders Association and other stakeholders leading the protests against illegal taxation, overbilling of electricity bills and 18 to 20 hours of load shedding have termed Kashmir Solidarity Day a complete hogwash. They have resolved to launch fresh protests against the administration if their concerns are not addressed on an immediate basis. We have a report.
It has been over 5 months since the locals, traders and businessmen are holding widespread protests against the administration. The Traders Association, along with other businessmen, are protesting against illegal taxation, overbilling of electricity bills and 18 to 20 hours of load shedding. The leaders in the illegally occupied territory have called for a total boycott of Kashmir Solidarity Day if their demands are not met on an immediate basis. Celebrated on 5th of February every year, the leaders termed Kashmir Solidarity Day a complete hogwash.
हम ये चाहते हैं कि 76 सालों से जो यकजहती होती जा रही है, इस दफ़ा थोड़ा उसको तब्दील करें, उसके तरीक़ाकार को हकीकी यकजहती के ऊपर आए। हकीकी यकजहती से मुराद ये है कि कश्मीरियों को उनका हक दिया जाए। इस वक्त हम अपना हक ये मांग रहे हैं कि पानी हमारा डैम यहाँ पे ला के मुजफ्फराबाद वीरान हो गया, मंगला मीरपुर तबाह हो गया। हमने आपसे कोई मुतालबा नहीं किया। आज हम एक छोटा सा मुतालबा कर रहे हैं कि उसके बदले जो आपने हमारे से जुल्म और ज्यादतियां की हैं, हमें प्रोडक्शन कास्ट के ऊपर बिजली मुहैया की जाए।
The Locals and the Traders Association blamed Pakistan for illegally establishing hydel power plants in their territory. The massive electricity generated in these hydel power plants is above the requirement of Pakistan's energy needs, but surprisingly, POK residents do not receive an iota of power generated on their own land.
जिस तरह जिस तरीके से हमारे ताजरों को इस वक्त इन्होंने बेबस किया हुआ है, सिविल सोसाइटी को बेबस किया हुआ, अंधेरे के अंदर लोगों को डुबो दिया है। नमाज के वक्त बिजली नहीं होती, बच्चों के खाने के वक्त बिजली नहीं होती, पढ़ने के वक्त बिजली नहीं होती। और मैं हैरान हूँ कि जानबूझ के जिस तरह मेरे पेशरोम कर्री ने बात की है कि हमें तंग किया जा रहा है।
The helpless traders, business owners and locals want nothing but electricity, and that too at production cost. It is more than a fair deal for Pakistan, who illegally owns power plants in the territory and is already generating a huge revenue through these resources in POK. The locals have warned the administration against a massive protest in the coming days. They said the sporadic protests in the region are just sparks but can turn into a massive fire if not addressed immediately.
एक भरपूर 8 तारीख को हड़ताल होने जा रही है। उससे पहले मैं ये इनको कहना चाहता हूँ कि खुदा के लिए हुक्मरानों समझो इस वक्त को कि जब ये लावा इस वक्त जो है ये चिंगारी है, जब ये शोला बन जाएगी, खुदा की कसम ना आपके बस में होगा ना हमारे बस में होगा कि इन लोगों को हम रोक सकें।
Pakistan has been persecuting the residents of illegally occupied territory for more than 70 years. The locals dismissing the celebrations of Kashmir Solidarity Day on February 5 are in no mood to budge against Pakistan or its proxy administration. The locals could launch fresh protests against the administration if their demands go unheard.
In a bid to promote traditional handicraft industry and to make the women of Kashmir self-reliant, the government has established several handicraft training institutes in Rajouri and other districts of the region. Every year, groups of 20 women are trained in handicraft skills at each of these centers. The women are also provided stipends during the training and minimal interest loans for establishing their independent businesses after completion of their diploma. The initiative has not only empowered the women in far-flung districts but also opened up new job avenues in the region. Take a look.
The Government of India is giving emphasis on making the Kashmir women self-reliant and financially independent. In order to achieve this goal, the government has established several skill development institutes in Rajouri and other districts of the Union Territory. The women in Thana Mandi town of Rajouri district are becoming entrepreneurs in the handicraft industry after gaining skills from these training institutes.
आज लड़कियां सर हर घर में मतलब कोई कटिंग टेलरिंग का कर रही है, कोई कुशन बना रही है, कोई कुछ बना रही है। बहुत खुश हैं लड़कियां क्योंकि नौकरी तो नहीं है लेकिन वो इस बिज़नेस में बहुत ज़्यादा खुश हैं क्योंकि हमारा बिज़नेस थन्ना मंडी में बहुत ज़्यादा चल रहा है, बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है। हम यहाँ भी सेल करते हैं सामान, राजौरी भी बेचते हैं, जम्मू में भी और एग्जीबिशन में बेचते हैं और ऑनलाइन भी करते हैं काम। जो हमें कोई कुछ भी मांगता, कुशन वगैरह, फ्लावर, क्रोशिया का, कटिंग टेलरिंग के डिज़ाइनर सूट, तो हम उनको बना के देते हैं। तो आज हर लड़की मतलब अपने पाँव पे खड़ी है, हर लड़की खुश है अपने घर में।
To promote the traditional handicraft and to give a boost to the women-led small businesses, the rural banks are providing easy loans on minimal interest rates. Each year, in groups of 20, girls are being trained in fulkari, chikri wood and other handicrafts to help them establish their own businesses.
गवर्नमेंट का बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अदा करती हूँ, ज़्यादातर बैंक वालों का और डिपार्टमेंट का कि हमें हर डिपार्टमेंट वाले मतलब बुला लेते हैं क्योंकि सबसे पहले तो ये बात है हमारे हाथ में कुछ है तो वो हमें आगे बुलाते हैं, तो वो हमारी हेल्प करते हैं, हम भी उनके पीछे चलते हैं, काम करते हैं।
The initiative has garnered much praise among the women in Rajouri and other districts of the Union Territory. The women trained in different handicraft skills are given stipend of 1,000 rupees every month and a diploma at the end of their course.
मुख्तलिफ डिस्ट्रिक्ट में 23 सेंटर हैं जो मुख्तलिफ क्राफ्ट में जैसे सोजनी, करीवल, स्टेपल, फुलकारी वगैरह वगैरह, और इसमें चिकरी वुड भी है जो हमारा यहाँ डिस्ट्रिक्ट राजौरी का, इवन के ये स्टेट का एक बहुत ही मशहूर क्राफ्ट है, तो ये हमारे चल रहे हैं। तो उनको उस सेंटरों में जो रोल है 20 लड़कियों का, हम एक साल में 20 लड़कियों को ट्रेनिंग देते हैं और उनको 1,000 रुपया पर मंथ स्टेपन देते हैं, और साल के बाद उनको हम डिप्लोमा देते हैं।
The Government of India is taking many such initiatives to empower women in the Union Territory. The women of Kashmir are now excelling in every sphere, and more importantly, their social status in the society has risen ever since they have started their own businesses and contributing to the economic growth of the region.
It's time for me to wrap up today's episode. We'll be back next week at the same time. This is Shivangi Mishra signing off on behalf of the entire production team of South Asia Today. Goodbye and take care.